Good morning, and thank you all for coming out on what appears to be the first day of fall. I was telling Leo I was on sabbatical for 3 months, and this is the first time I haven't had on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. So I know the summer is officially over, but thank you all for coming out this morning to celebrate with us. My name is Greg Haig. I'm board president of the Fenway CDC and a longtime resident of the Fenway neighborhood, specifically in Kenmore Square, which is part of the Fenway area. And we want to thank you all for being here. I'd like to extend a warm welcome. We have a lot of groups that are represented here, and I'd like to just call out the various groups that are actually here. If you hear a group that you're a member of, when I call you out, will you raise your hand and give a hey so that we can recognize the various groups that are here to celebrate with us? Do we have any residents of the Fenway, anywhere in the Fenway? Yay! All right. Thank you, neighbors. It's great to see you here. Residents of Burbank Gardens. Do we have residents of Burbank Gardens? Welcome. All right. Thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure to work with you during this process. Elected officials. Do we have any elected officials here? I think they're all over here. This is the elected officials corner right here. Thank you all for being here. It's great to see you. Board members of the Fenway CDC, my colleagues on the board, I know there's a few of you here. Thank you for coming and welcome. You do great work. Any of the partners on the project, finance, construction, consultants, anything to do with partnering with us and to help us preserve this affordable housing development, will you raise your hands, please? Thank you so much for all of your help and support. It does really take a village, as you'll find out shortly. So thank you to our many partners on this project, and welcome, and thanks for coming. So we're here to celebrate the acquisition of Burbank Gardens and the preservation of 52 units of affordable housing here in the center of the Fenway. I don't know how many of you, when you hear those words, realize what an accomplishment this is. This is a dynamic neighborhood that has a tremendous amount of development going on. And in fact, to be able to say that we preserved 52 units of housing to maintain affordability for this neighborhood is a significant achievement. And that's why we're here to celebrate. In April of this year, the longtime owners of Burbank Gardens decided to sell the property to the CDC. And we were really thrilled to be able to begin the process of assembling the financing to be able to acquire this property and ultimately do the renovations that are necessary for this particular property. It is an amazing process for any of you who have been through this. It's complicated, it's dynamic, and it requires an enormous amount of partnerships to be able to do this work. The number of partnerships was unknown to me, but our housing experts, thankfully, were deeply involved in it and revealed to me just how much work it really is to do this, just to preserve the units. So we're here to celebrate that process, at the conclusion of that process and the starting of a new process, which will be the renovation of the building. And so we said to ourselves, well, how do we celebrate it, right? We can't do a ribbon cutting because it's already done and there's people living in it, right? So there'll be no scissors today. We said no sharp objects. We said we can't really do a groundbreaking because, frankly, it's already built. So there'll be no shovels either. So we said, how do we actually celebrate the conclusion of this? And Andre Jones, our housing director, conveyed to the board and to the staff that this whole process was like putting together this massive, complex puzzle of things. So what we're here to do is actually celebrate the putting together of that puzzle with all of the various partners that were part of this process. And so at the conclusion of this program, all of the partners will be holding a piece of this puzzle so that we'll have a photo op in front of Burbank Gardens to celebrate this accomplishment. Again, thank you all for being here. So the first piece of the puzzle, frankly, was the first piece of this puzzle was the Fenway CDC. As some of you know, we're celebrating next year our 45th anniversary. We were one of the first CDCs in the Commonwealth. Our mission over the 45 years that we've been in the neighborhood has been to develop, manage, and advocate for affordable housing in the Fenway and throughout Boston and the Commonwealth. The other part of our mission is to do workforce development and training and attach our residents to good paying jobs in this neighborhood and beyond the neighborhood. And the third part of our mission is to develop resident leaders in the Fenway so that they can advocate, the community can advocate on its behalf with institutions and with all levels of government. And that's our mission as a CDC in this neighborhood. Today we celebrate a piece of that mission, which is the saving of 52 units of affordable housing. So I'd like to thank the staff of the CDC. They do amazing work every day of the week to fulfill those missions. Thank you so much on behalf of the board and the community for the work that you do. We really appreciate it. There are three people I'd like to call out just real quickly that were part of this process, that were a really important part of this process, that were on staff. Leah Kamhai, the Executive Director of the CDC. Where are you, Leah? Thank you. It's a real pleasure and honor to work with you. You're a real professional, and we're very fortunate to have you. Andre Jones, who is our Housing Director. Andre's also was a longtime board member and colleague of mine on the board, and he's brought a tremendous amount of enthusiasm, experience, and commitment to affordable housing. Thank you, Andre, for your work on this. Lisa Soley, who is currently our asset manager. She's also formerly our housing director, and she has been associated with the CDC, I'm told, for 22 years, which is just phenomenal. We want to thank you for that contribution, for all those years of service. We really appreciate all the work that you do, Lisa. Thank you. I'd also like to thank the board, because the board, without your commitment to the community, without your commitment to the mission, we wouldn't be here today. It takes a lot of people and a lot of work to run a CDC and run an organization, and the board is all volunteers. And you show up to community meetings, you show up to board meetings, and we really appreciate all the board's activity. Thank you. So let's get started on the other pieces. That's the first piece of the puzzle, right? But there's a lot of other pieces of the puzzle, and one of the most important pieces of the puzzle is going to be our next speaker. Nothing in the affordable housing area gets done without the support of the City of Boston. And the commitment to both developing affordable housing and the preservation of current affordable housing is really amazing on the part of the city. And here to talk a little bit about the role that the City of Boston played in helping us preserve these 52 units of affordable housing is the representative of the city, and we're really pleasure to have him here, is Mayor Walsh.
Thank you very much, Greg. And it is an exciting day here today, and I want to thank everyone at the Fenway CDC for the great work that you do. We were talking a minute ago about some of the great work as far as preserving housing in this great neighborhood, so thank you. Before I get into my formal remarks, I just want to give a couple shout-outs and thank yous. One is I want to thank State Representative Jay Livingstone and Byron Rushing, not just for their participation here in this project, but they're in the midst of doing a housing bond bill, which is going to be really important for all of us, so I want to thank those two guys over there. Thank you for your commitment. Byron doesn't realize he just committed to a bunch of amendments. Thank you very much, Byron, for that. Thank you for all your great work. But I want to thank them for their work. Seriously, I was at the State House for one of the bond bills, two of the housing bond bills in my 17 years, and it's an exciting opportunity to actually do some real investment on housing. So thank you. Councilor Zakem called me about a year and a half ago about this project here, and he said, you know, this is really important for us in the district to make sure that we continue to preserve housing. And one of the things that we started talking about was the importance of preserving housing throughout the city of Boston. And George Zakem is one of those folks that does his job in the sense of making sure that myself, Sheila, and the team are constantly working not just to preserve housing, but to think about how to expand affordable housing. And I want to thank him, who's such a great partner in this area. So thank you, Councilor, for your great work in this area. I want to thank the Department of Neighborhood Development, Sheila Dillon. I don't even know what I can say more about Sheila. Every time I go somewhere, I try to talk about her. She's absolutely incredible. We know what she does. Thank you, Sheila, for being our guiding light in City Hall. I want to thank our state partners as well. Crystal, thank you very much. And I want to thank the governor and Tim, me, and the whole crew, all of you for your support here today. I want to thank the advocates, including CDAC and DHCD. Thank you very much. I won't go long because the wind is blowing. I'm in the sun, you're in the shade, so it can't be fun. I want to thank the Fenway CDC for doing this work for 4.5 decades. 4.5 decades of fighting for affordability, fighting for access, investing in long-term well-being of the people who make this neighborhood so special. They are boots on the ground, and there's no question about it. One of our strongest partners in our work to make our work, continue to work with us to make Boston resilient and make sure we continue to move forward. I'm glad to join the Fenway CDC on this. I forget what Eric said. I don't know if it wasn't a. I mean, what Greg said. It wasn't a groundbreaking, and it's not a ribbon cutting. A puzzle. Yeah, the puzzle. What am I thinking? On this puzzle. It feels like our life lately. Puzzles. In the vibrant community that we have here. You know, what's going to happen today is residents are going to be protected from displacement. We're going to improve the homes along with families' futures and their families that live here. And I'm proud the City of Boston is committing a good amount of money to this project so we can continue to move this project forward. Creating affordable housing is a major focus of what we do in City Hall. We have to continue to do that. You know, as we're preparing for a little event on November 7th, we're looking at numbers, and we're looking at numbers and comparing us to other cities across Massachusetts and across America. And I think that the work that we're doing in Boston with affordability, we have 20% of our housing stock's affordable, and that's the largest in the country in cities our size. When you think about low-income families as well, when you match us up to others, the only city that comes close to us in Greater Boston is Cambridge. They're 15%. We have 20%. You start looking at Newton, 7.5%. You're looking at Belmont, 4%. And when I think about the folks that represent those areas, they support affordable housing. So, I mean, we need to make sure we continue to do that in the City of Boston because we're strong on that. We have a strong record over the histories, and the Fenway CDC is part of that. Real quick, Burbank Garden Tenant Association, thank you very much. Matt, thank you for your great support. Helen, thank you. Councilor Salerno, thank you as well. Bob, thank you for what you do every single day. I'm almost done. Lastly, I think it's important to understand that strong housing, we need to make sure we have good health, employment, and education around, and together we're working to create those opportunities to preserve housing. In light of federal cuts, we got to make sure we continue to strengthen the neighborhood, strengthen the community. We have a great team here in Boston. When you think about our CDCs, our nonprofits, our housing advocates, a lot of housing advocates that are here, thank you. The state, Sheila Dillon, you know, we might have battles every now and then, but what's amazing is at the end of the day, we all care about the same thing. How do we create more housing? How do we make sure people stay in their home? And that's the focus we have to continue in Boston. So I want to thank you all to be here. I also want to introduce State Representative China Tyler just joined us. Thank you, Representative, for being with us today. And have a great puzzle day. Am I bringing up the next person? Do I bring up the, okay.
Thank you, Mayor Walsh. Thank you, Sheila Dillon, by the way. I didn't even see you down in front. How are you? So continuing our theme of it takes a village to put together a puzzle, one of the key partners in all of this, anytime that you're looking to do affordable housing, of course, is DHCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development. They're a very important partner in all of the projects that we do here in the Fenway that affect affordable housing. And we're really privileged today to have Crystal Carnegie come up and speak a little bit about the role that DHCD played in helping keep these units affordable. Hey, Crystal. Watch yourself, right?
So I'm just like checking out my shoes here. So, anyway, good morning, everybody. It's like fall, right? Yeah, it's a little cold, but it's sunny. I'm enjoying that. Sunny, nice day in the Fenway. So, you know, you've heard the background about this project, so I'll start by thanking the DHCD staff who worked on this on behalf of DHCD. And as many of you know, we have an extraordinary affordable housing financing system in Massachusetts that has many tools. And it's the state low-income housing tax credit. We have a regulation called 40T. We have a subsidy program from back in the day called 13A. Tim can talk more about that. We have the mass rental voucher program, and all those things we needed in order to make the saving of Burbank Gardens happen. And all those things we're due in partnership with the legislature. So as the mayor described, all those tools are available to us in the bond bill, and we're looking forward to making sure that gets passed so that we can work on the other, what are there, 8 left, we decided? 13A projects, as well as the many other production projects that we do in Boston. With this is Sheila, she's too in the details. She's like, no, it's 6. And so we definitely, as you can see, Sheila and I and the staff at DND, we work very closely together. And this is one of those things in which, because of our complex system and the relationships we have, we were able to get control of Burbank Gardens and really get it financed and get it in the right hands so that the residents could have the place to stay that they've been calling home for many, many years. And so I want to thank everybody for that, but in particular I want to thank the residents. This is like a nice day. I like the sun. I'm getting a little tan here, Mayor. I like the sun, and spent a little time talking to some community members, and that's the best part about this work. We have a great community that we do it with, and I'm very grateful for all our partnerships, but you know, the residents here just remind me that that's the reason I do this work, and that's the great thing about coming to these events. So thank you all, and happy Puzzle Day. Is that what it is?
That's great, Crystal. Thank you. Thank you for your support. So another set of partners that's really important are the elected officials who represent this area, particularly in the State House. And if you don't have advocates at the legislative level who are willing to push for legislation and funding, then these projects, like the preservation of this particular building, isn't possible to do. We're really honored and privileged to have 2 people who represent pieces of this neighborhood who are tireless advocates for affordable housing. One of them is Byron Rushing, who has supported affordable housing and the Fenway CDC for decades, and we really appreciate his support. And the other one is Jay Livingston, who also represents a portion and also has been instrumental in pushing legislation through to help support affordable housing. So if the 2 of you gentlemen would like to say a few words, you're an important part of the puzzle.
Thank you very much. It is always good to be celebrating permanent affordable housing. And of course, we have to celebrate all the people who make this possible. And I hope everyone remembers the list that the mayor gave of all the thank yous, and we're here to say ditto. I want to say, those of you who have been around for a long time know that I've been at a lot of these, right? And sometimes I bawl you out because I don't think you've done enough or done it in the right way. And it is a pleasure to be here to only praise you for this work. Let me just say one thing, though. I was walking over here from the South End, and I crossed Huntington Avenue, which there's no one here from DOT. Thank God they got that project done, right? So right over by Symphony Hall. But one of the things I wanted to check out when I was walking over is, because one of the things that I wanted to make sure they did when they did that project, which the state paid for, right, is that they put the signs back that said where the original money came from. And the original money came to do that underpass. You can argue about whether we should have done it or not, from the WPA. Does anybody know what the WPA was? Right? And the WPA, of course, was the largest public works project that this country has ever engaged in, and that, of course, was part of the New Deal under Franklin Roosevelt. The other thing that happened at that time was public housing was invented. Public housing was invented. And if it wasn't for public housing, right, we would not be as close to the 20% as we are right now. Public housing was the best idea we had for having affordable housing in this country. No way. There's nothing better. Nothing. The only thing that comes close is CDCs. So if I could figure out a way to do public housing, I'd leave you all, right? Again, right? So you have done such a fantastic job, and this is not only Fenway CDC, but all the CDCs in this city, and most of the CDCs in this country have done a amazing job exactly using the metaphor that you're using today, putting that puzzle together. If there was something that we could do, some magic that we could do next, that magic would be one funding source for affordable housing. People should not have to go through all of this, but you have to go through it, and you have done it excellently. So thank you all. Thank you for Fenway CDC. Thank you, CDCs. Brilliant job.
Yeah, I totally agree with Byron Rushing, and it was amazing to me watching Fenway CDC put this together. I remember when they first came and talked with us separately, we each had the same reaction, let's do it, how can we help? And watching them put together all the puzzle pieces has been great to just allow people to remain in their homes, which you wouldn't expect would be such a great effort. I remember it was now 4 years ago, I was just elected, and I was on the housing committee, and we had just gotten through the housing bond bill through the House and the Senate, and it was the first signing ceremony that I attended where Deval Patrick signed that into law. And it's great to see all these years later that this plays out. As Secretary mentioned, there's another bond bill up because it's a 5-year bond bill, and Representative Rushing and I and Representative Tyler are pushing to make these ceremonies possible in the future. So I look forward to Fenway CDC's next effort to keep affordable housing in this neighborhood, and doing whatever I can to help with that. So thank you for all you do.
Okay, great. We have one other elected official who has been instrumental and very supportive of the Fenway CDC, both in our activities of trying to develop affordable housing here in the Fenway, and also about our ability to represent the community as a whole. He's been extremely responsive to us, and I'd like to invite up Josh Zakem, our city councilor.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'll be brief because I'm really looking forward to putting this puzzle together as well. It's truly a privilege to be here with you all as the representative of this neighborhood on the City Council, along with the mayor, our colleagues at the State House, and so many people who played such an important role in preserving this incredibly important affordable housing here in the Fenway neighborhood. As chair of the City Council's Committee on Housing and Community Development, I have the privilege to also sit on our Neighborhood Housing Trust, which, working with Leah, with Sheila's team, with Andre, with Rich, with everyone at the CDC, we were able to come together and contribute significant funds to preserve this housing here and to make sure that this neighborhood retains the affordable housing we have and work on creating more. Mayor Walsh and his administration have been such great partners on improving and increasing the pots of money we have for affordable housing, from increasing the requirements for inclusionary development to championing the passage of the Community Preservation Act, which is going to bring us about $70 million more money that we can use to create and preserve affordable housing in the city of Boston. So that's incredible. Representing the downtown neighborhoods, representing the Fenway, housing creation and affordable preservation is a cornerstone of the policy work we do every day at City Hall. We need your partnership, our partners at the state, in the nonprofit sector, and I see some of our institutional neighbors here as well who have all contributed, and we need to continue doing that because the mayor said we've got almost 20%, we've got 20% of affordable housing here in the city of Boston, but we need more. That is always, always, always something that comes up and something that we need to do to preserve our neighborhoods and make sure that the people who built our neighborhoods into what they are, who have grown up here and who have stayed here, have an opportunity to stay here and keep their families here in these neighborhoods. So I want to thank you all for your commitment to affordable housing, to the Fenway neighborhood, and it's a great day to celebrate right now, but we all have more work to do in the city of Boston. So thank you. Looking forward to grabbing one of those puzzle pieces.
Puzzle pieces seem to be popular. I'm glad for that. As Byron mentioned, there are seems to be an innumerable number of sources that one has to approach in order to get the money to do affordable housing, whether that's to build it or to preserve it in this case. And the work, both financial and technical, and the support that organizations that we've worked with are really indicative of the next group of people that we would like to recognize. Roger Herzog is Executive Director of CDAC. CDAC enabled the CDC to acquire the property with their early stage financial commitment. They've provided prominent leadership with respect to the preservation of affordable housing. And almost every project in the city of Boston that I know of, CDAC has some involvement with, so it's not possible to do this work without CDAC. So we'd like to have Roger come up and say a few words. Thanks.
Good morning. It is a great honor to be here. Let me start by saying congratulations to the CDC and happy 45th anniversary. CDAC is getting ready to celebrate our 40th anniversary, so we're a little younger, but we know it's a big deal. The board and staff of the CDC have really achieved a great thing by preserving Burbank Gardens. Leah and Andre, you're a fairly new management team here at the CDC, and we're so impressed with the way that you manage this project. This is our 9th affordable housing project with the Fenway CDC. Many of them are preservation projects, such as the Westland Ave apartments. Mayor Walsh, you have made affordable housing a cornerstone of your administration, as clearly expressed in the plan you created, Housing a Changing City, Boston 2030. Affordable housing preservation is a major priority for the city, and you have set aggressive goals. The plan includes the need to preserve Chapter 13A projects, and Burbank Gardens is the best example to date of this goal. You've provided funding to back up this plan, $5 million for this project alone. CDAC has worked intensively for over 25 years with the city and its Department of Neighborhood Development, led by a great team, Sheila, Teresa Gallagher, Beverly. Thank you for that partnership. Mass Housing also deserves a lot of credit for allowing this project to be preserved. And Tim Sullivan in particular has led the charge. The Chapter 13A challenge is very serious. And of course, this portfolio is within Mass Housing's assets. The challenge grew when HUD decided that 13A projects were not eligible for special Section 8 preservation vouchers. And Tim, you and your team have responded with a solid plan to preserve as much of this portfolio as possible. And you put money up also to make this happen here at Burbank. DHCD, of course, led the charge, and Crystal and her team did a great job utilizing the tool of 40T that our legislature passed back in 2009 to preserve projects like this. So what am I doing up here? Well, CDAC provided, as Greg said, some critical early stage financing, $9.4 million in acquisition and pre-development loans. This includes a participation with our partners at Eastern Bank. And how did we do that? 2 words, Bill Bronner. Congrats, Bill, on your extraordinary work on this and many other preservation projects in Boston and across the Commonwealth. And there's 2 words to describe Bill, technical assistance. He's the best. So congratulations to all This is a really important day for housing preservation in the Fenway neighborhood and the residents of Burbank Gardens. Thank you.
Right, as Roger mentioned, there are a lot of organizations that contributed to the financing of this, and the next organization is one of the main funders for this particular project. Tim Sullivan is the executive director of Mass Housing. Mass Housing assisted and participated in the successful acquisition of Burbank Gardens, and because of that, it ensures the affordability and perpetuity for these units, which is an amazing thing to have 52 units of affordable housing remain affordable here in one of the most dynamic neighborhoods in the city. So, Tim, could you come up and say a few words? Thanks, Tim. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. I usually try to be brief, but it is so nice in the sun. I'm just going to, and this is such a great occasion, I'm just going to take a little time and warm up if that's okay. I apologize. Mass Housing is your state's affordable housing bank. Our mission is to improve the lives of the citizens of the Commonwealth by confronting housing challenges. And we can think, frankly, of no greater challenge across the state than the 13A portfolio. I want to start by thanking the Mass Housing team, Kathleen Evans and Doug O'Brien. This is a real challenge because, as Roger talked about, this is a portfolio of loans where there's a real cliff. When the use for affordability ends at these developments, tenants are not likely to get vouchers, and we need to create preservation in place for those tenants so we can preserve those homes. Preserving these homes requires real partnership. It requires strong mission-oriented non-for-profits and CDCs like the Fenway CDC here today. It requires strong local partners like the City of Boston. The mayor's demonstrated great leadership through the Boston 2030 housing plan, by putting real resources into affordable housing, and moral leadership to make these deals happen. And I really want to particularly shout out to Sheila Dillon. Sheila was the public quarterback on the public response here, and we really appreciate that. So thank you, Sheila. I also want to recognize the state partners, the legislative delegation that made the funding available here. CDAC, which is, through its ability to get in early in these deals and acquire, helps to make these possible for preservation. And for DHCD, under Crystal's leadership, the Baker-Polito administration has increased funds available in the bond cap by about 20% for housing. That's a substantial commitment, and within that commitment, they've made $50 million of new resources available to the preservation of the 13A portfolio. That matches a $50 million commitment that Mass Housing has put together. So a combination of Mass Housing resources, state resources, cities like Boston investing in this preservation here, MRVP increases, tax credit preferences. The state has put a robust response together to this very significant challenge. So we're really glad to be here today for this outcome. We look forward to being at many more of these in the future as we preserve the remainder of the 13A portfolio. And my congratulations to the team and to the tenants here. This is a great outcome, so thanks very much.
Great, thank you, Tim. Last but certainly not least is another important funder and supporter of affordable housing in the Commonwealth. Joseph Flatley is president and CEO of MHIC. Mass Housing Investment Corp is one of our earliest advisors in this endeavor, even before we acquired the property. They've been tremendously supportive in all of the projects that we have. Joe, if you could say a few words.
Thanks, Greg. This is a great day, and we're proud to be here. Despite our name, which makes us sound like a state agency, we're actually a private nonprofit, and we raise money privately to support projects like this. Over the years, we've raised over $3.5 billion, financing over 20,000 units of affordable housing, either developing or preserving it. That's our mission. That's what we're about doing. We've been a long-time partner with Fenway CDC. In the early 90s, we actually financed the conversion of the failed condos down Burbank Street, which had been converted in the early 90s to condos, then failed, and the CDC took on a very ambitious effort to buy back those condos and convert it back to rental housing. What an endeavor that was. So we've been partners with you for a long time. We're proud to be your partners. Christy Vincenti, I don't know where she is. Hopefully she's in the sun. There she is. She's the one on our staff who really is the one who's been working with Fenway CDC to put the pieces together. This is a complex transaction, purchasing it and then moving to actually refinance it. We're raising private capital about $7.3 million. to put into this transaction to make it work. And we're only able to do that because of the other puzzle pieces that are there. So we come in because there is the state resources, because there is the state tax credits, because CDAC has helped, because the City of Boston and DHCD have put the resources in. But we're proud to be able to bring this private capital, and we're proud to be long-term partners. Really not just this, again, is something which requires long-term commitment on our part and on the part of everybody. Most importantly, the long-term commitment of the people in the neighborhood. So I want to thank everybody, but I particularly want to thank Fenway CDC for their work on this, for them being with the neighborhood through a lot of changes over the years and really making possible something like this happening. So congratulations.
Great, thank you, Joe. I was just kidding with Byron. I'm messing up the landscape over here, so as I'm stepping over, we may have to raise more money to do new landscaping. Anyway, I want to thank all of you for coming today. This is an important milestone for the CDC. It's an important milestone for the neighborhood. Anytime that you can stand at a podium and say that you've preserved affordable housing for 52 families, it really is a day to celebrate. But we can't do that without an awful lot of partners. And all of those partners were gracious enough to come out today to celebrate this event with us and to share their experience and expertise on how this actually does get done. So thank you all for being here.